Logan is a successful online entrepreneur, Amazon business. He's also started Alpha Candles, and these are both fine young graduates from the CEO program in Montgomery.
Fellow alumni.
Yeah,
Yes,
alumni.
sir.
As soon as I started school that year, headed into a program called CEO. CEO stands for Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. It's a program where for the first couple hours of your day, your senior year, instead of going to school, tour local businesses, you hear from speakers, you have to get to start up your own business as well. And then Alpha Candles is the business that I started up for my personal business venture.
Woo! Gambe.
Gambe. Cheers, gentlemen.
Welcome back to the Doughboys podcast. I'm with you here, your host, and I'm joined by host Logan Allenberger, but today he's also our guest. I'm also joined by our friend here.
It's a pleasure.
Now, Logan is a successful online entrepreneur with an Amazon business. He's also started Alpha Candles, and these are both fine young graduates from the CEO program in Montgomery.
Fellow alumni.
Yeah,
Yes,
alumni.
sir.
That's what they are. So good to have you here with us today. How you doing?
Doing well. I'm excited to come on the podcast in a bit of a different format, be able to kind of share my story and talk about one of my businesses that I've started.
Yeah, it's one you started when you were in high school, and then you eventually went into the CEO program. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I started this business technically like the summer right before my senior year of high school. I think we started it in August, so really just like a couple weeks before school started. And then, as you mentioned, as soon as I started school that year, headed into a program called CEO. It's a fantastic program that I went through, and now I'm actually able to be the teacher of it. CEO, it stands for Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. It's a program where for the first couple hours of your day, your senior year, you get to, instead of going to school, tour local businesses, you hear from speakers, you have to get to start up your own business as well. In the first semester, you start up a business as a class that often looks kind of like an event. My year, we did Moco's Got Talent, so it's kind of a spin on America's Got Talent. And then Alpha Candles is the business that I started up for my personal business venture.
And you already had Alpha Candles going before that.
Yeah, like a couple weeks before CEO started.
Okay.
I wanted to start a business, and I knew that was going to be something that I did in CEO. Someone who's always like looking ahead, trying to get prepared, get ahead, get an advantage if I can. So I just kind of get a jump start.
So I got two questions. Number one, did you already have your sights on CEO doing that senior year? And number two,
Yes.
I guess this is first. When did you know that you wanted to start a company? How did you know that? Was it because you had your sights on CEO?
Yeah, those are good questions. So actually, shout out Chris Storm. I had my sights on CEO ever since my freshman year of high school. I remember it really vividly, Chris. We were sitting at Dairy Queen outside. I think it was me and my brother. We were just having ice cream at Dairy Queen, and you were talking about CEO. And you're like, "It's this really cool new program." You were first year, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool new program where you kind of explained it, and you were like, "I get the opportunity to actually make my own money." Instead of just going to school, and that clicked with me. And then for the next 4 years, I actually met with my guidance counselor, and I planned out my next 4 years of high school, making sure that I would be able to, one, be able to take CEO my senior year, but two, be able to kind of be more prepared. So I mapped out a pathway to be able to take every business program that my high school offered through my junior year. That by my senior year, I would have kind of the head start. I would have that knowledge to be able to implement once I got into the CEO program. And then as far as your second question about did I know I wanted to start a business? Yes, it's always just kind of been in my blood and in my DNA. I remember even being like really young, my mom would be like, "Hey, and this weekend we're going to have a yard sale. See if there's some stuff that maybe you want to get rid of." And I was like, "I don't want to get rid of my stuff, but I recognize that this yard sale is an opportunity for me to make some money." So I'm like, "Cool, I love this yard sale. I'm going to set up a lemonade stand." Not only am I going to set up a lemonade stand, but I'm also going to go and bake some cookies and hit them with that upsell, get them deeper in the vortex. And I was just recognizing this at a young age. Like my first memory of doing something like this, I was, if I had to guess, probably like 6, maybe 7 years old, like really, really young. Just being able to recognize the opportunity to make money, even if it's a quarter glass of lemonade and then like a 50-cent cookie upsell. Just always in my blood. When I was in 6th grade, me and a couple friends, we started we like kind of wrote a little story. It's just like 5 pages. One of my friends did the illustration. Me and the other guy, we kind of wrote the story. And it was more so like, yeah, we're just doing this for fun. We're going to enter a creative contest. It's pretty cool. But it's like, no, guys, we got to sell this. So we're going to go to school. We're going to sell it for whatever, like $1. We can make some different copies. You don't have to just make the illustrations one time. We'll run them through a printer. But we're going to sell these. It's cool. A couple years later, Alco. It was a chain. I don't know how far-fetched they are throughout the U.S., but kind of just like a store that you go to, you buy your general stuff, really like a smaller version of Walmart. They were going out of sale, 80% off everything. I was like, okay, 80% off everything. That includes these candy bars. I can pick them up for 20 cents. I go back to school, flip them for a buck. So I would just all day carry stuff out in my backpack, keep them in my locker, sell candy at school. Did that again in high school, just like flipping candy, always looking for opportunities to make money.
You just genuinely enjoy the
Yeah.
process of like
Starting something yourself,
So yeah,
being like a self-starter and looking for ways, creative ways to make money, provide value, and just start up your own ventures.
this actually reminds me of a book. Do you know Trevor Noah?
Mm.
So Trevor Noah has a autobiography, but he actually talks about this like process of like when he was young of always finding one thing to flip to the next thing, and it was more of like a trade. And they would ultimately end up with nothing because they were like young, but they just enjoyed the process of like always on the hunt for
It's
the
the
next
thrill
thing.
of the
that we can
hunt.
trade. Yeah,
And
yeah,
eventually, I started the Amazon business, which we talk about a lot
right,
about on here, but the retail arbitrage, it's the thrill of the hunt. It's the thrill of finding that 200% ROI product
right.
and looking for it. Yeah.
It's like everything is a mini like dope rush, like right there.
Mhm.
So Alpha Candles, um, that is comes at a time in your like high school career in your life where you're a little bit more developed. You've honed in some of these skills, capturing like some sales and how to flip and things. And then you pair that with, getting yourself set up junior year and then joining the CEO program. How did
Yes.
that impact the growth of Alpha Candles? And did you know that it was something that you wanted to like make a powerhouse? Or is this just a little local candle shop you wanted to create?
It's a loaded question. Get a lot racing through my mind based on that. I would say CEO impacted me a lot on the business side, but also on a personal level. I think it just really kind of accelerated my growth and my ability to learn and develop these new skills. Like when every single day you're able to learn from a new experienced professional who oftentimes is like 40, 50, 60 years of experience, and you're able to get all these different perspectives, that's just naturally going to help you grow in your capabilities and the things that you know and are able to implement. CEO also taught me a lot of valuable skills. Like my mentor, Ryan, he was the teacher or facilitator at the time. You had him as well. Shout out, Ryan. He taught us a lot of really great skills. And actually, Chris, I'd be interested on this question if you want to chime in some skills that you learned in CEO. I think that'd be interesting. But like he taught things like if you're 10 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late.
Yeah,
Always be early.
yeah,
Another one was always do what you're expected to do and a little more.
yeah,
He has a saying, it's like show up a little early, stay a little late, do what you're expected and a little more.
yeah.
Being able to not be afraid to ask questions, because actually not asking the question is the stupid move. People are often afraid to ask questions, but CEO taught me that you just need to ask. It's okay to be ignorant.
As you always say,
It's
you
okay if
already
you
have
are
the gun.
ignorant, but you need to ask so that you can stop being ignorant and learn. Tons of great lessons.
Now I have to ask, since now you're a teacher of the CEO program, what is one impact that you had as a student that you want to relay back as a teacher?
Definitely all those lessons that I just learned, I try to implement in my own students. It's a good question. Those are really like the takeaways that I just shared were key takeaways for me, and I want my students to be able to have those same key takeaways.
To ask as well, asking questions, not being afraid to ask them. What would you say is the importance of having, good connections? Because I think one of the things I've learned from the CEO program, you have to develop good connections in
Yes.
order to thrive. What would your response be to that?
Absolutely. I mean, there's the saying, your network is your net worth. You're the sum of the people you spend the most time with, right? Having these connections and being able to be connected to people who can help you out or solve problems is huge. And that was a really, really important lesson that I learned in CEO, but also that I've just learned over the last 5 years, being out in the world, running businesses, working, collaborating with other people. It's just like there's something about you have a problem and you can make a phone call and someone will solve that problem. Like someone that's coming to my mind is shout out Dom. Dom was able to help.
Right. Yeah, Dom did so.
And you'll gain these relationships in ways that you never expect. I've made some of the best relationships through Alpha Prep, which a lot of people would look at as almost a failed venture.
Yeah.
Like so much has been
Yeah.
developed out of that.
I want to take a quick moment to interrupt and thank this video's sponsor, The Annex. All these videos were filmed at The Annex at Lincoln Square in Hillsboro, Illinois. They offer workspace memberships, event space rentals, conference room, and more. So if you're interested in any of these services, be sure to check out The Annex at Lincoln Square in Hillsboro, Illinois. Thank you to The Annex for giving us a spot to record these videos and for helping to provide this space and service in Hillsboro.
I mean, business in a lot of ways is kind of like these fightings, like jiu-jitsu or like boxing. Even like every move that happens to you is a potential for a counter move, right? And that's kind of like how you're seeing that, like that failed venture you used as a counter move, and you used those relationships, and it pivoted you into the next thing, like the next attack.
I mean, just relationship wise and then monetarily, I mean, so much more money is resulted in relationships that
Right.
A lot of my long-term lead list clients were clients from Alpha Prep. Some of my payroll partners now came from Alpha Prep, or even like Dom, he was the first payroll partner that came from Alpha Prep, and he kind of pushed the idea of getting some new payroll partners that we converted from my leads list. So,
And Dom, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he even came pretty late in the game, pretty late in the summer. It was like partway. He wasn't there at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like we found him after. It was interesting.
So what was the other part of that question? I thought there was a second part, but I didn't answer it.
Well, this is the part I want to know. So we'll say the second part is like,
Okay.
what's the purpose behind Alpha?
You asked if I wanted it to kind of be smaller.
Yeah.
Or what's the purpose?
Purpose. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I don't know that we'll be like some massive company, right? Like we're not going to be the next Yankee Candle, or at least that's not my aspiration. You never know, right? Whenever we first started this, we were in high school. We were like, yeah, Yankee Candle, we're going to tear them down. We're going to build our candle mansion, whatever. Yeah. I think it's something for me where I enjoy being able to create something. So we're actually creating a physical product. So for me, it's that. And then it's also being able to just be involved in our community. It's really cool to have a brick and mortar shop here in downtown Hillsboro, because this community has given a lot to me. And being able to be a part of that community and be ingrained in it and give back to it is really nice. One way that we like to give back to the community is through helping out with fundraising. So that's mutually beneficial, where we're helping organizations raise funds for what they need, but it's also a profitable venture for us. So it's win-win. We like to create unique experiences for people. I hear all the time, oh, we live in a small town, there's not much to do. It's actually a fair amount to do. And one of the things that we do is we create make your own candle events. So that's kind of a unique experience that we offer here. And normally you have to like go into a city to get something.
But that's like a premium event as well that you're offering. Those aren't common for small towns. It's very unique to Hillsboro.
Yeah. Now, another thing behind the mission, like obviously there's monetary incentive too. I want this to be something that can be an additional revenue stream for me. It is already, and I want to see that continue to grow. Monetary incentives aren't the main incentive for me, but they are definitely an incentive and something that is nice. And I want to be able to continue to grow monetarily. That way I can continue to be able to grow in the level of impact that we'll have.
Yeah. If there's not monetary growth, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
Like the thrill of making the candle goes away because you're not profitable. You can't keep making candles. You got to make money.
Yeah. You got to make money.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
Money in.
You always say this. Now, when you said win-win, shout out Stephen Covey, who wrote
Seven Habits.
Seven Habits.
shout out
Always
Steve
think
Covey.
win-win. Yeah. So walk us through it really quick. What goes into running a candle business, making a candle, all that stuff?
I mean, just like any small business, and any of you who are listening who are a small business owner, an entrepreneur, you're probably one person just running all the hats, right? You're wearing all the hats. So in any business, there's operations, there's production, there's advertising, there's managing with your clients, there's employee management, there's financials, there's all these different things. And that applies to Alpha Candles as well, obviously. But then like the specifics as far as how to make a candle, it's fairly straightforward. Getting your recipes and everything down takes some trial and error, but the more you do it, the more accurate you can get. But we have all our equipment. It's the process of melting down the wax, getting our fragrance oil formula figured out for that candle, blending it in, stirring it, pouring it into the jar. About a week later, coming back through, kind of smoothing out the tops, cleaning up the product, labeling it, putting it on the shelves for the customer.
Some of your supply chain, like your jars, your wax that you're getting, your wicks, has that stayed the same since high school? Those are all changed.
Definitely not.
Okay. So those are things you've learned to adapt.
Yeah,
to.
you'll learn over time, like where to get your product and adapt. Whenever we first started out, I had a couple suppliers. We're primarily just buying online, the easy places to go, and what you'll find out is easiest is not always going to be best.
Yeah.
So you're paying for the convenience of this is quick and easy. It's like on the consumer standpoint, you can go buy it from Amazon, or you could go find it somewhere cheaper. But Amazon is obviously just a lot easier.
That's my
Same
first
concept applies to your own supply chain on the business end. We purchase, so our wax, we used to just buy it online. Now we found a local supplier in the St. Louis area, and I was able to figure out that they existed because I went to a trade show and another candle supplier hooked me up.
That's awesome.
Super nice of them, right? So
Yeah.
again, going back to your network, as you mentioned, Chris. And then our jars, we used to go to a place called jarstore.com, right? Super simple jar store. It's obviously convenient. It's obviously easy to find. Now I found a supplier in China who's able to get us our jars. We have to buy thousands of jars at a time, but it's a much more, it's a more affordable price and also offers some more customization. We've got a wooden lid now that has our Alpha Candles logo engraved on the top. So it's a nicer product
For
at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
But it wasn't easy to do.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows how to go and find a supplier in China and then figure out how to work with them.
And there's some
figure out what
logistical
to do,
issues with
logistical
getting the
issues,
jars.
customs,
Yeah.
sorting through everything, dealing with all the broken stuff, the messy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot more work,
Path, not the path of least resistance. Right.
but the better path.
Yeah. So that's just like, would you say that's a big difference from you starting Alpha Candles and being so young, and now you've grown up a little bit more? Would you say that's like some difference?
Yeah,
adjustments you
absolutely.
made?
And I've just learned so much more over the last 5 years. Alpha Candles was really my first like legitimate business venture. And anytime you start anything, you're not going to know how to do it ideally or at 100% efficiency. So we've just been able to, the more that I've learned, something that you learn in one business can often be applied in a lot of different businesses. In the Amazon game, I learned how to source things overseas. And now for a lot of our like cold outreach, I source overseas because it's one, high quality, and two, a lot more affordable.
Did you ever dream when you first started in high school that you'd have a brick and mortar store now for
Yeah.
Alpha Candles?
There's always something that I just thought would be really cool.
Mm.
And it kind of just like legitimizes your business, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's easy to, it can be difficult to kind of legitimize it to yourself or to others if it's just you sitting in a computer or you operating out of your home. But once you have that brick and mortar, it's like, okay, this is legit. And then it also kind of gives you some like consistency. So going back to the Amazon thing, when I got my first warehouse, which is actually right next to where Alpha Candles is now located, shout out that first warehouse. And shout out Tony for hooking us up.
Yeah. Chris would even come in and put some shit.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, now I have rent to pay. I can't just not send in my product. I can't just not make candles. I have rent to pay. Makes you be more consistent in your business and be more consistent with delivering value to your customers. That way you can bring that money in, pay your bills, and have more profit.
I heard you mention earlier, like people complaining about small town. So like Hillsboro's got like 6,000 people or whatever it is.
Yeah, give or take.
You find that that's a struggle for having a brick and mortar store capturing sales with such a small like market.
You don't get a ton of store sales. And you can own a small business and have a brick and mortar store, and you can be in a small town and you can be really, really good at getting in-store sales, or you can be really, really bad. And you could sit around in the town, oh, people don't want to support small business, or it's just not going to work. There's not enough foot traffic. There's not enough demand. Or you can be creative with your solutions, right? When we first started out, we weren't really sure how much of the business was going to be in-store traffic. So we kind of were already planning on focusing on wholesale. So a lot of our business is wholesale and private label. It's selling to other businesses. It's creating private label candles. We actually have an example right here, Black Rabbit Coffee. So we create for a local coffee shop. We create a coffee candle. We throw the logo on it. That's just one of dozens of examples that we do and supply to other businesses. We also do fundraising, as I mentioned earlier. We also do make your own candle events, which are a big hit. We do roughly one event a week where people get to come in, make their own candles. It's a unique experience for them. And it's a good, consistent revenue for us.
And I like how you mentioned, small towns, I guess before Alpha Candles and, of all the small businesses that have popped up, Hillsborough didn't really have much. So I guess to you, where would you put that as your values of, giving back to your hometown and, keeping that up with your e-commerce as well?
Yeah. So part of the brick and mortar itself is able to give back to the community because, like you said, I don't know what 8 to 10 years ago, there just was not much here. And then it started with more and more businesses were slowly opening up. And, the more people see other businesses popping up, the more likely they are want to contribute as well, too. We have several businesses on Main Street that all draw in foot traffic. If there was just one, like let's say we just had the coffee shop, only people who like coffee are coming downtown. Now we have the coffee shop, and just for another example, the candy store. Now we have people who like coffee are coming downtown, people who like candy are coming downtown, people who want to go grab a drink or opera coming down, people who want candles are coming down.
Some records.
All the records, all these businesses downtown are drawing in so many different types of people that can then cross different paths. So
Yeah.
the more that are open, we have our brick and mortar shops. So yes, I would say it does contribute to drawing people in, and just having a business downtown will draw people in and help support the town and help support other small businesses.
Community.
It's all about community.
Now, this is something for both you and Josh. Now, you mentioned how, sometimes in business, you'll encounter failure, but I guess between the two, would you say for a failure, would it be, trying something, you learn that didn't work, so you learn from it? Or would you rather say a failure is more of, I would like to do this, but I figure it might be a failure, so I'm not going to do it and won't give an attempt? I mean,
I don't
say?
really believe in there being a such thing as failure for two key reasons. One, even if it's a quote unquote failure, there's still something that you learned. There's still some takeaway. There's still some good that came out of it. That way you can do better in your next venture. And reason number two is because I'm very happy with where I am today. And every single thing that has happened, the good and the bad, has led me to become the person that I am today. I don't think there is a failure because it has all led me to where I am today.
Both, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Okay, so with Alpha Candles, we combine questions. Okay. Long-term goals for Alpha Candles. Footnote for that is we know that you love outsourcing.
Outsource everything.
Outsource everything. Is this yet another company and another project of yours that you see being outsourced?
Yes. And that is part of the long-term goal, is to get it to a point where it can run itself. Still me kind of being in that CEO role, kind of helping guide the long-term vision, but the day-to-day, the production, the sales, the customer service, all that kind of being outsourced. And we're slowly getting to that point.
Oh.
I would say my goal is over the next summer of 2025. So like a year and some change to hopefully get it to where it's outsourced.
See, that's the really interesting thing about growth is like a year ago, if we had this conversation, you probably wouldn't have been saying 2025. But now that you've grown and you've learned more things and you've had more problems and more failures and you've learned from those.
That's an aggressive timeline.
A very aggressive timeline. Great situation as well. And it didn't work out, but maybe that puts you in a position here to be able to say
absolutely
summer of 2025.
Right.
That's really cool. Well, thank you, Logan. Thanks for coming on. Or Storm, thanks for being on the podcast today.
It's a pleasure.
If people want to find you, where can they find
Go
you?
to shopalphacandles.com. Peace.